By a show of fingers, how many of you are worried about democracy being threatened in the United States? I got Rochelle. Anybody else? Democracy being threatened in the United States. Rochelle, why? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, I just feel that way just because of like all the unknowns and all of like if Trump becomes president, Biden doesn't. It's just I just feel like a lot of things can happen and also warfare and it could just affect the democracy um from other countries to us. More like the other country and our democracy, that part.
Okay, it's not something internal that you see as the threat, it's an external threat.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not worried about democracy being threatened from within the United States.
Right. A little bit like if Trump, but like more so I would say yes, more so from outside.
Okay, got it. Let me just ask you this question because the other five it doesn't apply. Does your past experience or your family's experience in from other countries impact the way you see threats to democracy here in the US?
Um no, I don't know enough. One of my parents wasn't born here. They were born in Mexico and the other one was born here. But I know it did affect him in that way. But I don't know enough to speak on it.
Okay. So President Biden is arguing that former President Trump is a threat to democracy. By a show of fingers, who would say that argument resonates with you? Two of you, Michelle and Rochelle. Okay. And by a show of fingers, who is concerned that Trump has said he would be a dictator on day one, just for one day? Who's concerned about that? Anybody? Two of you, three of you. Okay. Maritza, is that a real concern or is that kind of a sort of maybe concern?
I think it's like a sort of maybe concern just because of the way his personality is.
Meaning what?
He's very like aggressive. He's very, um, it's like pretty much like my way or the highway type of personality that he has.
Okay. But do you take that threat seriously or do you think that's just bluster?
I hope it's just bluster. If it's something that he has plans for, I hope he doesn't achieve them.
Okay. So I'm asking whether
But
you hope it, but do you think realistically it's bluster or is he serious?
I think he's a little serious on that aspect.
Okay.
He is a big talker, but he kind of backs up what he says.
Okay. Michelle, is it bluster or do you think he's Trump serious?
I think he's serious. Part of his campaign is expanding the presidential powers.
Okay.
He wants more power in presidency, and I think he even floated the idea of a third term.
Okay. Do you take that seriously?
Oh yeah, especially with him.
Okay. Got it. So when I asked earlier, who's worried about democracy being threatened in the US, why didn't you raise your finger?
Honestly, in the back of my mind, I am hoping to God. I know I said it's likely that he would be voted in, but I mean, part of me has to hope that he won't. I don't necessarily perceive it as a threat, only because I don't believe he can really change that, because of the way our democracy is. So, I mean, there is concern that that's his stance on it, but I don't think it would actually come to fruition.
Got it. By a show of fingers, how many of you are worried about democracy being threatened in the US? All 6 of you. Sonia, how? Or why? Why are you concerned?
I just feel like we're going after some of these issues, abortion being one of them. And if we start stripping that away, that just opens up the doors to other rights that we as Americans hold dear. And we're just opening up ourselves to that happening.
Anybody have a completely different reason for why you're concerned about this? Manny, why?
We're just dividing ourselves in politics too much. I feel like a lot of people use their political stance as their personality almost, and we forget that at the end of the day we have a common goal, and it's just to better ourselves and better our communities. And some way, somehow, we just keep on picking sides and just clashing with each other.
Enrique, why is this a concern for you?
Well, I mean, in reality, we're not a true democracy, so we're more of a republic. But I think it's a concern because if we were to be a true democracy, then really what's going to govern us is the big cities, right? New York, LA, things like that, right? So when we're talking about democracy, it was a tough question, question to answer, just because it's like, do we really want the masses to really just govern, or do we want a little bit more leveled out guidance of our country, right? So,
Okay. By a show of fingers, does your past experience in other countries, or your relatives, I should say, or family's experiences in other countries, impact the way you see threats to democracy here in the US? Just one of you. Enrique, in what way? Enrique, I'm not talking about threats to a republic. I'm talking about threats to democracy, the ability for Americans to decide what they want based upon their ability to vote.
yeah, I mean, you look at Venezuela and all these other countries that are more socialist, right? They went from being the top of the economic, I mean, they were just as high economically as us. Now their oil-rich country is poor. And we have a bunch of mass migration from there all the way through the Americas into the US, right? So, and it's a ripple effect all throughout the Americas.
Okay. So President Biden is arguing that former President Trump is a threat to democracy. By a show of fingers, who'd say that argument resonates with you? 3 of you. And by a show of fingers, who's concerned that Trump said he would be a dictator on day 1? Just for one day. Who's concerned that Trump said that? He'd be a dictator for one day. 2 of you. Sonia, that doesn't concern you?
No, because I didn't hear the comment. And I don't know what context it was made in.
Okay. Manny, did you hear the comment?
I heard it. He just spouts a lot of stuff that never comes to fruition. So it's one of those things where, like, I doubt that the country's gonna go in lockdown in day 1. It's one of those where he just speaking out of his mouth.
Okay. Got it. Melissa, you're smiling. I'll give you the last word. It didn't concern you that Trump said that?
I just agree with Manny. He says a lot of things that are just cruel and obnoxious. And so I don't really put too much into his little tweets and his comments here and there.
Got
It's
it.
like what Enrique said earlier, it's more of what he proves than what he says.
Okay.